And we are live. I am Kristen Kerr, and this is the Cool Data Project Show where I interview practitioners in ML, and AI about interesting projects that they're working on. And today I am super excited to have Greg Hogg with me, the creator of MLNOW and a YouTuber with over 50,000 subscribers. Greg, would you like to introduce yourself?
I would. Thank you so much for the short introduction already, and I'm very excited as well. Um, yeah, so basically, around 7 years ago now, I started university at the University of Waterloo, um, and I studied statistics, which is, I mean, at the time, yeah, agreed. It is a raise the roof type situation. Um, at the time, I didn't know what roof I was raising. I just went into mathematics because it's in general like something that you can apply to everything. I really didn't know what I was doing. And then around like second year, I got started with just deep learning and neural networks, and then that kind of guided my study journey towards statistics. That's the kind of theory behind all that stuff. Um, so then throughout university, I did the combination of statistical theory while it's also a co-op or internship program. I did a bunch of co-ops or internships at various companies there was an insurance company, um, a food company, just a lot of different stuff. Because again, math and statistics is very general. And I eventually went into doing deep learning. So my most recent job was still an internship. I've technically never had a full time like job aside from ML now, which is myself. But we'll talk about that. Um, yeah, so I did a bunch of internships and studied statistics, and now here I did YouTube after that as a full time career. And in the last about year now, I started coding ML Now, which is my website for teaching all this stuff in a way that's better than videos. It's interactive. So, yeah, that's a pretty good introduction.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, no, and I relate. My bachelor's is in math and my master's is in stats, and it was for the same reason. My parents were sort of guiding me. They were like, hey, we feel like, just anywhere could potentially need math. And then later I went for statistics when I found myself in a job where I wasn't making as much as I'd like and saw that statisticians were making more. And, a bunch of years later, here I am. So would you like to tell us a little bit about ML Now?
I would. So basically, yeah, about a year ago, I had done a lot of the YouTube videos that I've wanted to do already. I mean, it's at the same time, it's kind of just getting started, but also I've already done a lot of different things, teaching most of what I know, to be honest. And I felt like it was. I like videos. I think they're helpful, but I also think there's an obvious constraint on just simply like watching something, and that's really all there is. I mean, if you're watching it and in one tab and you're doing stuff on another tab, that's great, but that also kind of takes initiative for you to do that. It feels like there's a disconnect between like just watching something and actually doing and learning things. And I think Code Academy solved this problem quite a while ago now, where to learn coding, you don't just like watch a video of it, you don't just read about it, you don't just code randomly, you have a guided instruction telling you what to do as you kind of progress through, and you learn concepts building up an order interactively. I think is it's still not the only thing you have to do. You still have to go out and build your own projects and go out in the real world. But for the core learning process, I do think that that is a really good setup to do that. And so I kind of took everything that is already on the market right now, and I said, I'm just going to do this myself and do it the best way that I think is possible for teaching data science, analytics, and what's we're about to release a machine learning course in the next month or so. That is, there's a lot there. Deep learning will be after that. And basically, it is a mix of Code Academy with a mix of Data Camp, where Data Camp is basically Code Academy for analytics. But I just did it all in a way that I think is the best way possible, because I felt like there's always something missing from all of these platforms. I'm definitely not saying that they're bad or the ultimate solution. I think there's a ton of greatness in there. Um, but also, and not that my platform is going to be the absolute holy grail of everything either, that everything has their ups and downs. But basically, when I was going through this stuff, um, I felt like it just it seemed like obviously like there was a lot of employees in these companies doing various things with different mindsets, and some of the lectures were like really good, and then others felt like some of these data camp courses I've seen, it seems like there's a lot of lessons in them from the table of contents, but then when I go into some of them, it feels like you're just not learning as much as you should be, or I don't like how it's written as much. And so I've kind of just seen all of the different things that are around and tried my best to spend like hours on each very particular lesson, trying to teach it in the right way, um, in an interactive way to get the right output. And that's basically what it is. I don't think it's anything that, it's not something the world's never seen before. I think it's something that little pieces that everyone's seen, but it's just trying so hard to make it the best thing that it can be.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I completely agree with what you said about the videos because one of my favorite things to do is sit in bed and stream YouTube videos to my television so I can watch popcorn and learn. And that's great for when I'm learning about, how to do new things on social media, or I want to learn about something that's like a little bit more high level. But when I'm focusing on really learning programming, my fingers need to be on the keyboard, and it really needs to cover a lot of the context that is, a lot of times you can get instruction, but it's just sort of like, hey, do this, now do this, and it's sort of like, why am I doing this? How does it relate? How do we connect all of the dots? And so I'm totally with you. Was there additional motivation behind, like, what made you wake up one day and say, I want to build this?
Honestly, the main thing was that I just, as I said, like going through the courses, and actually, I feel like it kind of says it all. And I'm not trying to be negative towards anyone else. And of course, there's so much positive to talk about. But I actually just saw it again a few minutes ago. The ad on Data Camp is 420 plus courses or something. And to be honest, that's actually absurd. Like for someone to actually go through 420 courses, like I can't even comprehend what that possibly entails. Whereas like me, I'm trying to really make a focus, and this is how I thought of it before, is like, well, no, I have a pathway that I've been recommending from Coursera, which I think is phenomenal, which is about like 10 or so steps. And the fact that it could possibly be over 400 steps, just it does not make any sense to me. So I tried to make all of those experiences, like the best stuff I like from Coursera, the best stuff I like from Data Camp and Code Academy, packed into a pathway that you can actually comprehend and read it. It's like, this makes sense. These are the steps that I need to take, and this is how I do it. And also, it was a bit of a personal like journey for me as well. I had done a lot of YouTube videos, and that's a lot of coding. It's a lot of editing, and you wear a lot of different hats, more than just a Python hat. I'm actually sad, by the way. Side
Yeah.
note, I have an MLNOW.ai hat coming in the mail literally today. If it came an hour sooner, then I would have been flashing it. But for now, it's Python, which is good to flash as well. Um, but yeah, it was a bit of a journey for me as well, because I've even some of my YouTube tutorials have like Flask, which is a Python web framework, a very simple web framework. And I had done some really simple stuff before. I've done HTML and CSS. Like actually, I've learned it from Code Academy, because I really think that their courses for teaching some of this stuff is just great. Um, but I kind of thought that I knew how to build a website, and I also wanted to prove it to myself that I really could do, like, as I've always thought of myself since we started talking about statistics and data science, whatever, that you sort of start to like establish yourself as this one entity, where it's like, I am a machine learning engineer, or I am a YouTuber, or whatever it is. And my brother is like a big web developer. one is an engineer. Not that that matters. Just wanted to call him out because I called out the other one. um, and so I kind of wanted to say, like, okay, I don't want to be just a data scientist. I know how all of this stuff sort of works, and I also want to be a web developer. And so I just threw myself into coding this. In fact, a lot of the code is literally like example folder, example project, all of the Django stuff. It's written in Python Django. There's so many stuff that's like it wasn't even meant to be this big thing at first, and then I just slowly morphed it into it. And now there's like thousands of lines of Python code and HTML and all this stuff that I sort of thought I knew. But now I feel like I really know as well. So it was a personal journey for me as well, just kind of proving that I could do this. Um, and then once I started to see the potential of what I was building, like at first, got to be honest, I actually did not see, like if you go to the website right now, I did not envision it being even slightly this complicated. But as I saw more and more potential of what people were doing, like Code Academy and stuff online, I was like, I can do this. I can do this. And it just took months and months and months. But most of the heavy lifting is out of the way. And now it's just building the material, which is also largely done, but there's a lot more coming. So it was for the people, and it was also for me for sure.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any insight into, because so I finished all my schooling before data science university programs existed.
Yeah.
Like deep learning wasn't something that I was going to hear of at university.
Yeah.
And when they first came out, and I, worked with creating some of these university courses in like 2018, 2019, and what I found was, there were big gaping holes, like SQL wasn't being covered. And it's like, well, where are you getting your data when you first walk into an organization? Or they'd make a choice like, we're going to cover recommendation engines versus time series analysis, which I've never met a business that didn't care about how things change over time. And so, all these sort of like holes that I would see as probably something that would need to be supplemented later with a course. Like, what do you think the state of university instruction is now? And I'm sorry if this question's catching you completely off guard.
So I think it depends a lot on what type of institution you go to. I went to the University of Waterloo, which is very like of course they're all academic institutions, but it's especially like an academic institution where like they are mostly focusing on the theory, and then there will be a little bit here and there of the more up to date stuff. For them, I can't really speak a whole lot about anyone else, but I think what they're doing does in general kind of apply to everywhere else. Like, so they were definitely trying their best to stay up to date with the most up to date stuff. Even in like, so I was there for 5 years. At the beginning, they didn't really have a whole lot about neural networks. And then at the end of the 5 years, I actually saw that there was 3 or 4 courses on deep learning and convolutional nets, LSTMs, and those sort of up-to-date things. So from what I see, they are getting better. Nonetheless, no matter what any program you do, I think you do need to go learn it yourself elsewhere, which is all the different methods of like, you need to learn the skills of the theory, you need to learn the coding on how to do it, you need to take those raw skills and go onto your own computer, fight through those many awful technological battles that no one ever talks about in the courses, but they're always there. And that's why I do most of my tutorials on Google Colab on the cloud, just so that you can avoid a lot of those stuff. And of course, MLNOW as well as its own platform. But yeah, you have to fight through all that stuff and actually build it yourself. And I don't think there's really any university program that would be great at that. But I think they're getting better for sure.
Right. Unless it was like a project-based course, which you don't tip, at least I'm not familiar with it. But, a lot of times you'll have a project at the end of a semester or something, but really like you need to be working on these things continuously. And yeah, the majority of the learning comes from banging your head against the wall and then figuring something out and sticking that in your pocket and saying that one's not going to catch me again. So have you had any like interesting learnings during the development of this that you can share?
Um, One thing I could definitely say is, man, I feel bad for the people before the Chat GPT era because like coding this myself, like I use Chat GPT like every step of the way, from like talking about the GCP deployment on the cloud to making the lessons to all the Django code. Like I it's certainly not just like a, hey, I want this, click the button. But I have conversations with it, like a history of like 50 to 100 conversations of various things that I was figuring out. And I can just not imagine what it, and I mean, I can because I've coded before it existed for sure. And I can see the transition. So I really just want to say, for anyone that like wants to build a project or do anything fascinating, it is such a freaking good time to do it, because it's not like you don't need to know how to code. You need to know all of these skills, and it's more important than ever. um, but if you're actually trying to make something that actually does something and not just learn skills, if you want to build a product or do something, just please use it, because it's freaking phenomenal.
Yeah, no, I know. I have conversations all the time about like, what did we do when we were asking Jeeves for answers and he wasn't, it is, it's just so different. And yeah, there's a lot of help out there today that was not there just a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Um, were there any challenges that you experienced along the way that you can share?
um, yeah, absolutely. So I think in general, like the main challenges are actually mental. Like there are of course technological battles that are kind of that are popping up. Like that's what directly is frustrating, is like something's not working or I don't know how to do something. Um, but I've kind of turned all of those, and I think that everyone really can, into just like it's a mental battle of like you can figure it out. And it's, again, like with ChatGPT, like if you ask the right question or spam it enough times, you might honestly just get lucky, and it'll help if you figure it out. And of course, you still have to try a bunch of things yourself. Um, there was a lot of technological battles, especially as like it is a business. So there was a lot of things that I've just never thought about before, and I've been very used to things feeling very structured. Like this is the way you should do things. This is the way I have to do it because this tutorial frames it this way, or my boss told me to. Um, but building my own thing, which was it's just a big project. Like it's just thousands of lines of code, and any project can be turned into a business if you give it a like a free tier, and then you give it a paid thing that you let everybody use it, and then you have to charge something, otherwise you can't run it. Like you can't give the free thing if you don't have a paid thing. um, so it's just a project with thousands of lines of code. And the main battles here were honestly like I would just be hit with stuff that would not work for days. I remember like my one of my close friends got really mad at me because I was just like sitting there doing it for like 3 days straight and not talking to anybody. But they are battles and it's just a computer that's not working the way you expect it to, and you can solve everything. And also, there was a bunch of business ideas of like it was every single step of the way, including now. It is a fight not to settle. And because, again, at the very beginning of building this thing, I had no idea what it was going to be. But as every single day progressed, I'm like, if I hold off, if I code just a few more weeks of doing this, it will be so much better. And making the biggest businesses and companies, like these things can take years. And now for me, it's about like a 10 months or so of just coding basically every day. Um, and so it's mostly a mental battle of like, and this goes for anyone making a project or anything, because my advice to people when they ask for like what project should I make, to be honest, most people are looking for the easy answer of like, um, you go to a website and you copy someone else's project, or they have this idea super straightforward. But no, like just sit down, you know, think of something that you actually want to make. Do it so much better than everybody else. You don't This probably won't take a day or a week, or it might take a few months to make something fantastic, but just do it, because the amount I've learned in the last like year of coding that is just, it far outweighs like all the things I've done previously. Like any job, any school, like especially web development in particular, it's kind of the like it's everything. Like you need to do things that people are actually able to see, and the modern web is tricky. I still don't really know JavaScript. ChatGPT does most of the JavaScript for me, but if you fight with it long enough, you can build something that people can actually see, and I think that's truly beautiful as well. So I know I kind of tangented around a few times, but honestly, like that's the main challenge is um, like fighting with yourself to say like, no, I can do better. I can do better, whether it's a project or company, or it's a project turning into a company, or you're an employee working somewhere and you're settling. Like just work. I don't mean you're settling as an employee. I mean you're doing work that you know you could do better. Um, Basically, you just have to keep saying to yourself like, I can do this better, and you'll build something fantastic. And if you're trying to make a project and you're trying to get a job, you will get that job if you sit down and you make this phenomenal project. Seriously.
No, that's so incredibly important because for me too, when people ask me what I've been working on, I'm able to point to like, I built the bus detector. I was running YOLO V8 on Raspberry Pis and a Jetson Nano and comparing them. But like those are the things when you say like, oh, I took a course, like it just doesn't land. You have to have these different projects in your portfolio that you can point to. And a great way to start is to just maybe look at what somebody else did and recreate it yourself, right? Like not everything needs to be huge, but you do need to be able to, talk about what you've done and just think about how you're able to position yourself. Um, don't know. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention there was you talked about, leveraging Chat GPT to build this. And I think it's amazing and I use it myself, but also if you really look into a problem and you troubleshoot it and you find that you can't get the answer. A lot of times I've found that if I ask on Reddit and you have to word the question well, because otherwise they will absolutely chew you out. But like there are places that you can go on the internet where there are people that have the experience and are willing to help you and give you the answer to that. So if anything, we're in a time between ChatGPT and, communities of data professionals that are like aggregated, right? Because before, if you went to Twitter and asked a question before, like data science or statistics Twitter was really a thing, you're going to be speaking to a bunch of people who don't know what you're talking about. But now we have these very pointed communities that are very knowledgeable and have done these things before. But so between all these different resources that we have, like you said, like there's never been a better time to starting data projects so that you can, and there's simple things too. You can do like a hello world version of a project. I played with LangChain a couple weeks ago and set up a little interactive chatbot app. Like that's something that took me an afternoon, right? Like I have bigger projects and then I have projects that were like quick one-offs or whatever, but it gives you something that allows you to like market yourself to your potential employers or when you're networking, and like it pays dividends eventually.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think, yeah, to probably rephrase what I said, I think you need at least one or two big things that you can point to. And I totally agree that like I've done countless small projects that like throughout the years that, um, like you said, might just take an afternoon or a day, but you learn an absolute ton off of doing that. And then you kind of accumulate. I think that the
Really.
thing is like, I think a lot of people try on their resume to accumulate the 100 or 50 projects that they've done that all take an afternoon and stuff that on a resume. I see it a lot, and it just doesn't look very good. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do those things. It's just that you shouldn't show absolutely everything. You should show what makes you absolutely kick butt. Um, and in the back of your mind, you know that that thing you built is based off of all the skills and stuff you've learned previously.
Yeah, well, and it's iterative too, right? Like if you've done 10 different projects and you've been chatting with people and you find that typically they care about, a certain two or three of them, like those are the three you go with and highlight because you can't mention everything. Especially, if you become somebody like you who's got a ton of YouTube videos. Like not everything is relevant, but and I don't think we intended to get over onto like this discussion, but it is for somebody who's looking to get into the field. It's really a marketing exercise in how can I, most effectively make this person understand my value. And you do that through effective marketing. And that's through deciding, what to highlight and like also what not to highlight because you can't come in with a resume that's 3 pages long because you're listing 50 projects.
Yeah, no, I really like that. And I like that she mentioned marketing because, like, as a business owner, basically, I've been trying to learn a ton about marketing, which I've never thought of before. And I'm realizing, like, how widely applicable this stuff is. Like, just trying to show it visually and get people, like, just sell yourself on people, sell your projects and your resume and whatever. Um, I really like to be honest, a lot of people kind of think of sales as like this like other scummy thing or like this almost low kind of tier job at times, even though like it depends what you're doing for sure. But people, when you hear marketing, like a lot of people don't really get like a positive connotation out of that. And I really wish that I kind of rewired myself a while ago of what that meant. Like if you just read a little bit and see how people like what marketing actually is and how you can use those skills to make your resume better, to make your projects better, to talk better. I think it's huge.
Yeah, no, I mean, but especially in the data community, like if you're on Reddit, those developers sniff a sale very quickly and then immediately downvote you.
That's true.
So you have to be really smart about the way that you present any of the information about yourself and your projects.
Yeah,
For
agreed.
sure. So what are the next phases? What are you working on now? Where are you going?
Um, well, we just hit 50,000 subscribers. I'm really wanting to get the plaque thing that you get for 100K. So if we could just double that, that would be awesome.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Um, for ML now, honestly, it's just I absolutely love what's already there. It takes a long time to do everything right. I want purposely to leave it. I'm not saying that I'm the best person ever. I just mean I've done this, taught this stuff for a few years now and learned it so well. I don't want to hire somebody else that is just paid as a software engineer and their job is to get the job done. Like I want to make sure that it's done the right way. So it's just taking time, but we're coming out with a machine learning course, which I'm so proud of. Like there's honestly, I don't think there's much really anything out there that's like it. Um, After that, there's going to be some deep learning stuff, and I I really want people just to check it out. I think it's great.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, no, and I was checking it out too. It looks really good. What advice would you have for somebody who is new to ML? They're looking to get a job, they're just starting. Where would you sort of direct them?
Um, I mean, it depends what stage in the journey. Like, if you are you meaning someone that's already learned the skills, or someone that is like just a complete kind of noob and they want to get into it?
I mean, you can tell me for both. I'm sure that for the complete noob, it's going to be to check out ML Now.
Not a bad idea. um, yeah, I mean that sure. No. Um, definitely for someone that is I think honestly like a lot of people do seriously like have the skills and they know so much about this stuff and would be great in a job, but it's the marketing aspect. I've done a lot of resume reviews, which it helps me. Well, firstly, I just like doing it. I've done it for free for a lot of people just to help them out. I like helping people, and it helps me really think of how I try to present things in a good way. And my resumes, I'm sure it's not the holy grail of resumes, but throughout like my university thing, I always helped my friends craft the resumes because it's just like it's a lot of effort, and you have to worry about there's like this tiny little white space issue, and most people would be like, nah, you can't tell, but you can, like, just look at it. And I've seen so many people's resumes even over the last like few months or so, and it's just it doesn't look good. I'm sorry, there's so many issues with it. There's too many words, there's not enough white space, there's the projects are not something meaningful, the skills are very basic. And I mean, sure, that could be an issue with not having learned enough as well, but I know there's a lot of folks, and I've seen from their LinkedIn that they've done all these crazy things. It's just not presenting it well enough. And so for a lot of you, I strongly recommend just put several more hours than you're expecting to make the things that you're showing to people look really good. Even if it's the same information, just make it look good, and it'll help so much.
Hmm. Start your bullets with a verb, end with a result. And it's tricky. I myself have gone back to my resume and read a line and been like, oh my God, I didn't put on there why that was important. I missed it, and I've had to like fix it myself. And the resume is like a marketing document that is iterative. You're going to come back to it forever. Every time you do something notable, you're going to be changing it anyways. And then a lot of times, like when you're adding something notable, you're taking off something else that maybe is earlier in your career, not as relevant, and sort of managing what type of information is even included in it. For sure.
Yeah, exactly.
If somebody wanted to find and follow you, how should they go about that?
Okay. Is my name included on the LinkedIn already somewhere?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
you're tagged in this post.
Okay. Well, they could certainly click that. If you search my name, Greg Hogg, or probably Gregory Hogg, on YouTube, you'll see that. Check out MLNOW.ai if you want to. If you don't care. And yeah.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today, Greg. It was really nice to talk to you, and I really appreciated what you had to say about people being able to market themselves to get roles and really focusing on that, because that's also something that I really believe in. A lot of times it does come down to, you've done 60 courses. It's time to like market yourself. Yeah, so it was absolutely fabulous speaking with you. And do you have any last words you want to share?
The share, not to share. My last words would be thank you. I appreciate it a lot.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Greg. And take care, everyone. We will see you soon.